Caitlyn Jenner, whom I've met, wonderful person, Caitlyn Jenner was voted Woman of the Year. Her first year as a woman. Ain't that something?
Yes, I'm free.
You're not vaccinated, Gerald.
All I can say is I'm not a racist. I can't tell you how sick I am. I apologize again.
So cities across the country are seeing a major spike in violent crime now. A scary scene earlier this week in New York City. So to shoot out in the middle of the street during broad daylight, thankfully, no one blessedly was hurt.
Welcome once again to the New Flesh Podcast, the podcast you deserve. I'm joined by my friend Jonathan Astro, who has just got out of lockdown. How was Freedom Day?
It was low key, you know.
You didn't like run out on the streets and like hug every person you could see.
No, I wanted there to be some sort of. Was it in Norway when they dropped all their restrictions recently?
They did, yeah, and they had huge like they had heaps of violence for some reason. I think
dance parties and
they did. They had everything. Like they had heaps of violence, but then they had heaps of parties. I think with the violence. It was a case of FOMO. So it's the fear of missing out. Like there was a lot of lines for restaurants, a lot of lines for clubs and stuff like that. So I think it was extreme FOMO and people just got frustrated and started getting their punch on.
Well, look, it's been good. I didn't have the spectacular, what do we say, celebration that I would have wanted. But then again, it's just good to get out there, see normal people, you know, get back into normal life. And
so it wasn't like the end of World War II where guys were just snogging birds left, right, and centre.
No, you know,
it's a shame.
That's one of the greatest images of all time. And now he'd be arrested.
Yes, yeah.
You know? Anyway, he's a pig man. So, so that's Freedom Day. I'm happy to be out. Now, wherever you guys are, I hope you get out soon. Or if not, then you know.
Well, Melbourne's still trucking along. We're smashing that record as the most locked down city in the world.
It's great.
We are forging ahead with that. We're not content to just be the most locked down city. We want to like take it even further, so no one can ever catch up to us. I think.
Well, just a quick mention of these two guys, maybe, since we're talking about COVID. So a couple of guys jumped the border from Northern Territory in Australia to Western Australia. Now, Western Australia is not in lockdown. And this was to attend the football AFL, the grand final. They did all sorts of shit. They did forge documents, I think, and lie.
Well, they originally came from Victoria. So they went Victoria, Northern Territory, Western Australia. So, and they didn't declare that they'd come from Victoria, which was the problem. So
yes.
You're not allowed to come in if you've come from Victoria.
So restaurant owner Hayden Burbank, 49, and financial planner Mark Babbage, 39, sentenced in Perth Magistrates Court on Wednesday for sneaking in. Now, these two guys are in the big house. They are in jail.
They got 10 months, right?
They got 10 months. And
yeah.
So think about that, people. You know, they, in the waning days of this COVID pandemic, we have two idiots, mind you, and they seem fairly unlikable from the pictures I've seen. Nevertheless, they're in jail, and they're going to be there till after Christmas. Now, the only thing that got me about this was that why couldn't they just give them a massive fine instead of sending them to jail? Why give them a massive fine? Something that these guys' lives are destroyed. They are destroyed. They're not going. One guy's talked about not being able to having trouble with the liquor license if you've got a criminal record. They're both going to have criminal records. They're both going to have been in jail. You're never going to go to the US ever again. So that's out. And God knows there's probably other countries that have the same rules. I know someone who can't go to the US, and it pains them to this day. They just did something stupid when they were younger, and that's it for them. But yeah, these guys are in jail right now.
Yeah, I think it's insane. Like what they did was stupid, and they deserve some sort of punishment. But fucking hell, like some people get less time for beating up their wives.
Yes.
Some people like. I don't know. I'm sure there's an attempted rape that's got less time than this,
Yes, it does seem well out of proportion. Totally shocking and totally indicative of WA, of Western Australia, and Australia in general right now.
Yeah.
It's probably, and really bad press. And I think it should be amplified. I really think this is a story that, and look, if everyone says, unfortunately, they seem like dickheads. So that ruins the story a bit. But, you should just ask yourself, is this the sort of country that you want to live in? Is this the sort of country you want? And you need to get it straight. And if it is, well, great. But it was a bit heavy-handed, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. And these guys, they did make some key mistakes, like going to see the players after the game in the locker rooms and getting photos and putting them up on social media. Again, we've talked about this previous episodes with Sheila, I believe, about mobsters getting done in by their Instagrammer sons. But yeah, I mean, wouldn't you just sort of watch the game and then slip away afterwards? I don't know. It seems a bit silly to me. But
yeah, clowns.
Yep, clowns.
All right. What's up first?
Well, before we go any further, we are going to talk about Dave Chappelle in just a minute. I just wanted to do a shout out to Texas, and more specifically, the Republican Texas governor, Greg Abbott. He's barred all COVID-19 vaccine mandates in his state, and he's also called Biden's policies bullying. Now, as you know, I've said in many podcast episodes, I'm for vaccines and I'm vaccinated myself, but I'm strongly against mandatory vaccines. So that seems like a bit of a win for the state of Texas. I know we have a few Texas listeners out there, so big ups to the Texas governor there.
Yes, great stuff.
Well, Dave Chappelle, the closer. This is his sixth Netflix special, I believe, that came out just a few days ago. I'm a big fan. As soon as I heard it was coming, I watched it. I was on
sort
board.
of knock it off straight away, don't you, when it comes out?
You do, yeah. I couldn't wait. So I watched it as soon as I knew it was on Netflix. And what did you think, John?
I really liked it, and I was speaking to Yuri, and he went hard. He said he contended that Dave Chappelle hasn't been funny in years.
Really?
Which I thought was big. Now, I sort of tried to talk him off the ledge a bit and say, look, look, he's certainly not at his prime. Like, the Chappelle Show is his prime. That was the greatest show ever. So funny. He had it, and then I feel his role since he's come back is different. He's not like a straight comedian. Then again, that could be just an ebb and a flow and a change in the form, because, he also mentioned, Yuri talked about Nanette and the way that changed comedy, you know what I mean? How it wasn't really comedy, it was something else. So it's like Chappelle's had to do this sort of, it's like spoken word almost, it's not straight comedy.
It's almost like a philosophical lecture.
Yeah, something like what Henry Rollins does, I think was the example Yuri gave. But right. So it is a spoken word piece, really. It had some great laugh out loud moments, but I think the main thing for me is the function it serves as the biggest comedian in the planet, forcing everyone to have difficult discussions and forcing Netflix to come out and take a position on something So I think that for me is the most important thing. What do you think?
I thought it was funny.
You can take that up with Yuri.
I didn't think it was quite as good as Sticks and Stones, which was the previous Netflix special, but I thought there was some great. I think if you are frustrated with not being able to say anything about how just politically correct everyone is, or walking on eggshells, and then here's this guy that kind of is making jokes about things that would get the average person totally cancelled. I think there's a bit of excitement in there. So if you're someone who's really frustrated, I think you get a little bit more out of it than someone who's not really engaged in the culture wars and is just wants more straight comedy. I mean, for those who haven't seen this particular special, he talks mostly about coronavirus. He touches on racism, and also the trans issue is pretty big. But I think he's a guy that's just calmly and with a humorous sort of stance saying what he believes to be true, and I think it's really important because he is a guy who can't be cancelled. He's just too big. And people are trying to cancel him. He came out. I mean, his big thing was in this special, he talked about Terfs, and he declared himself Team Terf, which is a term that means trans exclusionary radical feminist, and that's what's got him in the hottest water, I think. But what's great to hear is that the CEO of Netflix, he's come out and he's quoted as saying Chappelle is one of the most popular stand-up comedians today, and we have a long-standing deal with him. His last special, Sticks and Stones, also controversial, is our most watched, stickiest, and most award-winning stand-up special to date. As with our other talent, we work hard to support their creative freedom, even though this means that there will always be content on Netflix some people believe is harmful. Several of you have also asked where we draw the line on hate. We don't allow titles on Netflix that are designed to incite hate or violence, and we don't believe the closer crosses that line. He goes on to say, particularly in stand-up comedy, artistic freedom is obviously a very different standard of speech than when we allow internally, as the goals are different, entertaining people versus maintaining a respectful, productive workplace. And meanwhile, Queer Eye for the straight guy star Jonathan Van Ness, whose show also streams on Netflix, weighed in on the memo and said, newsflash, straight men don't get to decide what crosses the line on transphobic speech, he wrote in a Twitter post. He says, that's a really gross look, Netflix. Okay. So I'm actually surprised that the CEO came out so direct.
You'd expect a lot of tap dancing normally, and or caving, But this is this is leadership.
Yeah,
you have to clearly state what you're about and what you're not, and I think that maybe one of the pitfalls is we've forgotten that when you say something, there's going to be some people who don't like what you said. And I think that people want this 100% on the tomato meter in their life.
Yeah.
And you go, we're not going to get it. And in fact, some of the rightest people in the world have had a lot of detractors. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't even have to be political stuff. It could just be there's a lot of people who don't like David Cronenberg. There's a lot of people who don't like Citizen Kane. You know what I mean? Like it goes on and on.
Yeah.
So the Queer Eye guy is, I feel like saying, isn't it great that you live in a country where you can express yourself freely and that you're more than happy? Dave said what he said, you said what you said, and I guess everyone gets to decide what they watch and what they don't. So let's leave it at that. Whereas what this person and a lot of the criticism is intimating or saying directly is we want it gone, cancelled, erased. We want him fired. We want him to lose income. We want his family to lose income. We want him to stop. We want it to go away. And we want everybody to not be able to see it. That's what they want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we just need to change it back to, great, I hear you. And we're not getting rid of it. So don't watch it. Don't watch it.
Well, that's the other thing. I know. I've heard a lot of people criticize the last special, The Sticks and Stones, who hadn't even seen it. I've talked to people who would basically just espouse what the Guardian might say about it, or pick one sentence from his hour-long show and say, that's a bit much and blah blah blah. Whereas for Dave Chappelle, the way he structures his shows, they're so. He says stuff that he says early in the show makes its way back to the end of the show.
Like intricate. It's
very intricate in the way it's structured. And so you really need to watch the whole thing before you weigh in on the issue, And I think it's interesting when you look at, I mentioned this to you a couple of days ago, like the Rotten Tomato reviewers, they gave the closer 43% favorable rating, whereas the audience score gave it 97%. It's always interesting when you see this, and I did see a commentator also contrast these numbers with the Fauci documentary that came out this year, which official reviewers gave that 91% favorable review, with only 2% favorable review from audiences. So, I mean, it's a sort of, I know Rotten Tomatoes is Rotten Tomatoes, whatever. Like, it's not really a great indicator of, overall what people think. But it is interesting to see such a big disparity, and I think that people in the media really they're not in touch with what the common person thinks or feels about particular topics.
I agree with that.
The Guardian review, which I've got here, I can pick out little bits. Pieces of it. It gave it a 2-star review. Let me read some of it here. He's saying basically Dave Chappelle, is tripling down on that hot potato content after a palate cleanser about his brush with coronavirus. The show mainlines our host's relationship with women, transgender people, and the LGBTQ community. He cracks abusive jokes about all of them, but this isn't punching down, insists Chappelle, who sees all these groups as more privileged than and often racist against black people. There is a tangle of shit-stirring, accusation, and special pleading, any space left for lightheartedness. Plenty if you're Chappelle's Detroit audience, who not only chuckle at but cheer his charmless tale of beating up a lesbian in a nightclub. But I found the show heavy going. It talks about his transphobia. Yeah, the trouble is the phobic jokes keep coming. Chappelle's efforts to ironize them, to dance around rather than wallow in the boorishness are divisory. They're often plain and weak, predictable. The predictable suck my dick punchline to his joke about feminism needing male leadership, blah, blah, blah.
That was funny.
He toggles between two modes, aggressive gags about Chappelle's antagonists and feeble protests that he never said anything prejudiced in the first place, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, fucking hell, stop, okay? These I can't take it. These Guardian like deconstructions, it's the exact opposite of generative work. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you've ever sat down with a blank page and tried to create something that, and all the best work out there, is just on the edge of either being brilliant or hilarious and not in a good way. And you really are, putting your dick out there, and it's hard, difficult, awful work, creative work. Would you agree? Rewarding, but difficult. And
it's as someone who's tried to write a lot of music and has written a lot of music, it's awful. The process is awful, especially the start of the process, and there's big rewards and feeling of self-accomplishment when you finish something, but all along the way it's like pulling teeth.
So that's generation, and these nasty Mean Girls Guardian reviews are always so gleeful, in the way they tear down works of art. Maybe they should remember that, even if they think it's terrible, they should remember that. As I've said in a few podcasts recently, remember Oscar Wilde, or even bad poetry is sincere.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So maybe you should be charitable to Dave Chappelle and what he's trying to do, and see it as, he would have gone through this process. It wasn't easy. Every time he steps out on stage, it's like, could be the last time. Just ask Michael Richards. Like, if you come out and say what he said, definitely said the wrong thing when he came out, and look, never to be seen again. So, that's what can happen to comedians when you're out there. Really, really dangerous stuff, because you've just got your mouth and the adrenaline, and so they're just so gleefully tear things down. Deconstruct is all they do, and complain and moan, and they don't have to be rah-rah about it, but it just is like, it just tells me more about the Guardian and their readers than it does the show, because I go, wow, like, that's why it's such a dour, disappointing, temperance league publication. They just talk about who, I guess it's just like a bunch of people talking about what you're not allowed to do, who we've all offended. It's sort of built on this huge pillar. Well, it's built on a bed of white guilt, elite privilege, and I don't know, and a real lack of a sense of fun and enjoyment out of life. Do you know what I mean? Would you think so?
Oh yeah, totally. That's the left is the most unfunny. You know, they just cannot take a joke at all. You know, they can't laugh at themselves at all. They just, because some of this shit is funny. Like Chappelle said in his last show, like, you know, some people feel that they are a woman trapped in a man's body. Like, that is an absurd situation, and I'm sorry that is fruitful, a fruitful topic for a little bit of humour, you know. And I'm sure there are a lot of people, you know, the quieter side of the trans community that probably can take a little joke about themselves, you know. I mean, it shows that they've arrived, that they've been accepted, that you can have a bit of a laugh, you know.
That's right. I agree.
Anyway, we highly recommend The Closer. So if you haven't watched it yet, check it out and check out some of his other Netflix specials. They are worth the watch.
Gender is a fact. This is a fact. Every human being in this room, every human being on earth had to pass through the legs of a woman to be on earth. That is a fact. Now, I am not saying that to say that trans women aren't women. I am just saying that those pussies that they got, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not pussy, but that's like beyond pussy or impossible pussy. You know what I mean? It tastes like pussy, but that's not quite what it is it? It's not blood, that's beet juice.
Now, John, you wanted to talk about, are we talking about the New York Times?
Look, I've had a break, okay? I had to have a break. Now I'm back. I'm back with a bang. I got a couple of juicy topics from the New York Times to bring to you from behind their paywall. And the first up, this really caught my eye. Okay, here's the headline. A year after defund, police departments get their money back. The abrupt reversals have come in response to rising levels of crime, the exodus of officers, and political pressures. So here's some highlights for you. Stay with me. Dallas. The demonstrators came at night, chanting and blowing whistles outside the home of Mayor Eric Johnson, protesting in occasionally personal terms his staunch refusal to cut funding to the Dallas Police Department. Quote, defund, reclaim, reinvest, close quote. About 24 people called out from the darkened Dallas street. A few weeks later, the police chief resigned over her handling of large-scale protests. Then the city voted to cut how much money the department could use on overtime and hiring new officers. That was last year. This year has been very different. In cities across America, police departments are getting their money back. From New York to Los Angeles, departments that saw their funding targeted amid nationwide protests over the killing of George Floyd last year have watched as local leaders voted for increases in police spending with an additional $200 million allocated to New York Police Department and a 3% boost given to local Los Angeles police force. The abrupt reversals have come in response to rising levels of crime in major cities last year, the exodus of officers from departments large and small. After slashing police spending last year, Austin restored the department's budget and raised it to new heights. We've talked here. We're saying that not only has it come back, it's come back in a big way in response to this rise in crime. Now, just as a bit of context to remind you all that last year, 2020, the year that people's brains broke, I stumbled across some NME articles that just gave me some, of all places, weird place, but for some context, this is from NME. So this topic has come under great speculation over the last 18 months, especially following the racially motivated murder of George Floyd by policemen in May 2020 and the international protests that followed. Many celebrities came forward to voice their support of police abolition, with The Weeknd, Lizzo, and John Legend signing an open letter calling for police budgets to be cut following Floyd's death. The open letter was launched by Patrisse Cullors, one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter. Now, our listeners might remember Patrisse Cullors is a very, very rich woman. We'll get back to her later. Founding member of Movement for Black Lives, and calls for local officials to cut police spending and budgets instead of increasing spending on healthcare. and instead increase spending on healthcare, education, and community programs. The time has come to defund the police, the letter states. It continues policing and militarization overwhelmingly dominate the bulk of national and local budgets. We call for defunding of police and for those dollars to be rerouted to create a public national healthcare system. Ricky, what do you think of Dallas, and New York, LA, everywhere else getting their money back with all of this in mind of what happened?
It's so obvious. It's so obvious that if you were to take away funding from the police, that crime would go up. I mean, who are these dummies?
You're a bigot.
Who are these fucking dummies? You mentioned John Legend. John Legend weighs in on defunding the police. I mean, what the fuck does he know about, police and crime? And I mean, these people are living on another fucking planet. Their brains have been broken, And the ironic thing is these rich, elite, left-wing celebrities and activists, they sit up on high from their comfortable surroundings in, I don't know, Bel Air or wherever the fuck they live, and they're saying to defund the police. But the actual working class black families in the inner cities, they want more police.
Yes.
I mean, kids are getting stray bullets from drive-by shootings all the time in the US. I mean,
Heather McDonald's covered this stuff at length, the disparity between what these activists say is happening and the rate at which it's happening and the numbers, of like people being unarmed, black people being killed and whatever, and the reality. But also, what happens when you take police away and you don't let them do things like hotspot policing, which is basically, as Heather McDonald's talked about, it's sending the police to where the crimes happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then obviously the criticism is, that they're minority communities or whatever. And you say, look, forget that for a second. There was a drive-by. There's been 3 drive-bys this week. A 4-year-old kid's got a bullet. We can't talk about optics right now. The people in that community need the police to just go there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A toddler got killed taking a bath, a stray bullet came through the window or some shit,
It's crazy.
I mean, fucking hell, it is crazy.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think you're right. I was surprised that this was such a sober piece of journalism from the activist New York Times.
Did they push back a little bit? Did they give any sort of sense that funding or refunding the police was a bad idea?
They'd given some time to some alternative points of view because they made a point that these measures went through unopposed. Now, they'd followed up with the people who did the opposing last time, some of these officials and these activists, and they've said they've given up on the local system or whatever, and now they're applying to the Justice Department or something. I don't know. But the overwhelming sense was that it was an open and shut case. Crime has risen, and strong black leaders who have come from these areas or come from the streets in the past in New York and whatever, like the new soon to be new mayor of New York, I think, Eric Adams. Now they have come out on the front foot and said, you know what, like hotspot policing and all that shit is exactly what we're going to do. I've come from, the 90s, grew up in a very violent time. We don't want that. That's what's happening right now. We need to stop that. So it's taken those leaders to really take back this movement, take it away from Patrisse Cullors, the former leader of Black Lives Matter, who, while as this is from the article as well, NME article, as protests broke out across the country in the name of Black Lives Matter, the group's co-founder went on a real estate buying binge, snagging 4 high-end homes for $3.2 million in the US alone. So, Patrisse Cullors is a snake oil salesman. This was
race
just
hustler.
Race hustler. This was she, and has sold people, a complete lie, and they bought into it. And so, thankfully it's starting to change, but defund the police was a well-intentioned, poorly named and marketed proposal. Okay. As you say, who in their right mind would think that if it was implemented in the way that the slogan says it should be, that it's not going to embolden criminals and encourage crime. Now, there are people who will say, but it doesn't mean to defund the police. And you say, and you go, look, then change the name. Call it the thing you mean. Then call it redistributing funds from the police into the ABC. It might be unsexy, but it's better than what it sounds like, because were a lot of people, I think, who did want it to happen the way it said. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Because a lot of people in Antifa was saying they wanted to get rid of police altogether, and they wanted to replace them with like citizen sort of guards that would somehow police things. It just sounded like madness to me.
So, well, I'll finish by saying that, if the New York Times, who had probably the time of their life in 2020, feeding off and creating the drama that we're all living through now. If the New York Times has changed its course, lost interest in, what James Carville calls faculty lounge politics or fringe social and cultural ideas that most people in the world don't care about, then I want them to say so. I want them to say so loudly and proudly if they've changed direction on that. I'd also like to offer a service, maybe, for everyone who said mad shit last year, maybe John Legend, whoever, maybe there's people in your office or whatever who took 2020 as a time to really explore the exotic parts of themselves and, came out and said, defund the police, or like in the London, they said, don't shoot us or whatever, and the cops don't have guns, or who talked about wanting to, abolish whatever, gender, whatever they wanted to do in 2020, and talked about, Trump being literally Hitler and whatever. I would just say, isn't this what you wanted? Isn't this what you wanted? Do you know what I mean? Like, we took the funding away in this instance. Crime went up to astronomical levels. Murders went crazy in America. Other crime, looting, people. There's so many videos online of people just like walking to shops and stealing shit and just like pushing, either just walking past the security guard staring at them, and it's absolutely shocking. And we just need to remind everyone of what they said last year. Now I'm offering. I want people to change. Like, I offer them. If people want to change, that's great. But just remind everyone who went nuts that, just like every blowout, you need to live with the morning after. And that's what we're in now. So what are we going to do? Are we going to give them their money back and, get back to, the great societies that we've actually spent a long time working, to create? Or are we just going to continue this revolution and destroy everything? But I end on a positive note. Morgan Freeman says police work is, aside from all the negativity around it, it's necessary for us to have them, and most of them are guys just doing their job. They're going about their day-to-day jobs. There's some police that never pulled their guns except in except in rage, that sort of thing. And I don't know. So what I like about that is Morgan is offering us, and you can picture it in his voice too.
Yeah.
The God voice, He's saying something that I think most people agree with. And, we need to keep amplifying that and to stop listening to the lunatics at the New York Times.
Yeah. Well, speaking of lunatics at the New York Times, the New York Times recently published a retraction to a story about the amount of children in the US who'd been hospitalized with the coronavirus. Reporter, trying to get her name right here, Apoorva Mandavelli, told readers that 900,000 children have been hospitalized with COVID-19 since the pandemic began. Yeah. It is a lot, isn't it? A correction which was
isn't that almost
issued...
a million?
that is almost a million.
Just doing quick maths,
Yeah. A correction which was issued a day later noted that the actual number was 63,000, which is a pretty big exaggeration. It's a difference of about 837,000 cases.
Look, I'm in the humanities, but I'm getting the sense, generally speaking, just sort of like holistically, that those are two very different numbers.
Yes, they are.
Just thought I'd clear that up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So Mandavelli's piece was on the debate surrounding whether and how to vaccinate children. So
imagine if I said to you, just hold there for a second. Imagine if I said to you, Ricky, you've won a prize. I go, oh my God, great. You've won $900,000. And you go, oh, and then I go, no, wait, I fucked up. Sorry. You only won 60,000. You go, oh.
Well, 60,000 is still pretty good.
Look,
but
you wouldn't kick it out of bed, but
no.
Would you? What? So you wouldn't pull me up on that? You wouldn't say, "Oh, that's quite a big difference."
Yeah. Where did that other 800 odd thousand go?
I just misspoke. Okay, don't hang me. Moving on.
So this reporter, Amanda Velli, she's had a history of ideologically coloured pandemic coverage. In May this year, she tweeted that, and this is a quote, "Someday we will stop talking about the lab leak theory and maybe even admit its racist roots. But alas, that day is not today." She later deleted that tweet, but not before tweeting this follow-up. "A theory can have racist roots and still gather reasonable supporters along the way. Doesn't make the roots any less racist or the theory any more convincing, though."
I don't understand a word she just said. What does that even mean? I'm just like, I listen to that word salad and I'm just like, wait, is this a way of you saying you fucked up, but I'm a racist?
No. This was doubling down effectively on her first statement, but then she deleted both of those. So she's basically saying a theory can have racist roots, but still seem like a reasonable theory.
Okay. I love how people say this stuff on Twitter, like, you know, they're getting ready for it to be on their headstone or something. This epithet, you know, like that they say things like, "Oh yes, this is the one, this is the one, this is the one," like, you know, that they'll remember me for.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I know. Well, this particular reporter took over when Donald McNeil, a 45-year veteran of the paper, was forced to resign after quoting the N-word. Now, I think you know a little bit more about McNeil than I do, John.
Well, I do know he was a long-time science writer.
45 years?
Yes, veteran. And he quoted the word "not." He did not use it pejoratively or like disparagingly or in rage or anything. It was a quote that he used in a context, and someone took an objection to that, and he was totally hung out to dry. Yeah, you know, immediately gotten rid of. Like, do not pass go, do not collect $200, just go, bye. And now that they have that vacuum, stepping into the breach is this clown.
Yeah. Well, it's obvious that the New York Times is pushing a fear campaign to help bring in compulsory vaccinations for kids. And it's ramping up these statistics to do it, you know. Now, to our Australian listeners, like 63,000 hospitalizations sounds like a lot, but don't forget that the total population of the US is 330 million people. And I think a lot of Australians forget this. Like, you always hear COVID bedwetters in this country say, "Oh, we don't want to become like America. Look how many people have died there." But, you know, I mean, for the benefit of our overseas listeners, Australia's population is 25 million. So US 330 million, Australia 25 million. So you've really got to compare these numbers with total population to really see how much of a problem it is, you know.
But these outlets never let context get in the way of a good story.
That's right. You know? And that's the problem with big numbers, like 63,000. You go like, I mean, because you can only really picture maybe, you know, people, you probably only know 50 people, you know.
If I showed you, you know, 63,000 pictures of dicks and 900,000 pictures of dicks, do you think you'd be able to remember the 63,000 dicks more? There's no other option, by the way. I'm only showing you dicks. You can't ask for another thing.
I can't ask for another
carrots or something. I'm like, no. I'm only showing you this so far, and that it's a lot, is what I'm saying.
That is a lot of sausage.
So yeah, this is an outrageous story. And you know, Andrew Sullivan's talked about the New York Times. Well, a possible theory is that, you know, with people like not just Donald McNeil, but you know, other stalwarts and veterans, you know, being gotten rid of for to save cash. And then who do you get in? You get in, young, excited, passionate people. The downside is, well, that they write, in this case, an article where the retractions are bigger than the article itself. But then also their writing style and their things they write about and the way they write about them, it ends up being like a university newspaper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is, very passion-filled, outrageous, probably immature, lacks maturity, lacks professionalism. And, that comes up in I've got a story that I want to talk to you later, and this is just exactly on that point of, they just seem to lose nuance as well.
Yeah.
And I know they've made a decision in the last few years or whatever to lean into words like, not that they do it as much with Biden now, but the word lie and the language that they use is, well, it's exotic in places. It is like you're doing a postmodernism course, you know what I mean? And but the way they happily lean into a strong language, subjective language constantly is a shock for anyone who's used to objective journalism, or at least something striving for that, which was something we had for a very long time. And now they've gone, oh no, now we're just allowed to talk like we're on Twitter.
But to misquote numbers like that by so much, it's hard to see that could be a mistake,
Well,
I mean, it's the New York Times. You'd have some sort of fact checking levels there when you're talking about statistics.
I just tend to not entertain too many conspiracy theories. I feel like the simplest answer is maybe they believed what they wanted to believe. Do you know what I mean? That this idiot reporter did the wrong thing, didn't do their job, which was all they had to do, by the way, is to check these numbers and to write a story. This is not their side hustle. You know what I mean? They're writing for the fucking New York Times. So that's failure of delivery, 100% failure of delivery. And then their fact checkers or whoever the fuck the editor's desk should have gone across this and, as I'm sure they used to. And instead they rushed it out and then they all looked at it and said, yes, this story accords with my narrative that I want. I like this narrative. Rather than them saying, oh, let's try and drum this narrative up. I think it was the other way. They looked at it and they went, yeah, this sounds about right. And I can't wait for those mandates or whatever,
Yeah.
Well, the way they retract now is pretty ridiculous as well. Like, it's not what you want, It's never a page one deal. It's always like, just some buried at the bottom, couple of asterisks, and it'll just say, oh, the original version of this story was, featured this. And you just go, better than just changing it and not telling us. But at the same time, they should maybe own, the only thing they have to do is, their due diligence and to, really go over these issues. And it's just a shame.
Well, what's worse, quoting the N-word or, fucking up statistics this bad?
Well, I just think that this person didn't do their job, and that guy McNeil, he was probably bringing more to the business than not. Maybe they could have stood by him and said, but again, it was 2020, so they just thought, we need to just do whatever the mob tells us to do. I think we need to get out of the doldrums. So maybe we need the news.
Let's do it. Sheila, twice in 1 week. What a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I'm glad we're not reviewing any of the Friday the 13th.
Next week. We're back. 3 and 4. Anyway, that's for next week. We need the news. What's been going on?
Oh, look, so much. I've had to cut so much. I might have to carry some over to next week. This week has been.
Oh, no, I sent you something important, which we talked about at the beginning of the show, and you just sent me one back saying, "Yeah, I got a full dance card." I
said the dance card is full.
That means you there's too much. You've got like, news is knocking down the door.
I know, and it's a shame because that one was a good one, but unfortunately,
anyway, what's
full.
up first?
Okay, exclusive. Wokeness? Forget about it. Old school New York mobsters lament that the mob has gone soft, blaming millennial gangsters for being wimpish, tweeting photos of their fugitive dads and sending threats with a text instead of their fists. Now, I'm going to read you the rest of this because it really, there's a great ending. Okay. Mobster Johnny Alight, who is a former crew member for John Gotti, tells Daily Mail how the up-and-coming gangsters are wimpish. Alight's gripe is a familiar lament among old New York mobsters who are coming forward to blast their woke millennial counterparts. The mobsters say the millennials refuse violence, are glued to their phones and social media, and send threats via text. Anybody who sends any kind of text message is just clueless about what it means to be a gangster, Alight 59 says. Colombo consigliere Ralph Di Matteo, 66, was forced to turn himself in after his son tweeted a photo of him relaxing in a Florida pool. Anthony Russo, who was jailed for driving a getaway car in the 1993 murder of fellow Colombo mobster Joseph Scopo, says the mob has gone soft. How stupid are you? You know your father's on the run and you're posting pictures on the internet. His father should break his legs, said Russo.
Well, I agree millennials should probably have their legs broken, but who would have thought that they'd be doing such a great public service here by helping to bring down the mob?
I think there should be more accents in the news. And you've perfectly articulated there that, and Italian people are so disappointed at this. Like, because I've got friends who are, have Italian ancestry, and they're so disappointed that no one cares about, what they call is racism towards them. Like, they'll go, like, you just be able to go, just do the whole bit, hand gestures, talk about Dolmios, all of that.
Mamma mia.
I didn't do an Italian accent. I did a New York accent, a New York gangster accent. Is that how bad my accent was?
No, there was a little bit in there.
Oh my goodness.
Italian American. No, it was Italian American.
Oh, sorry, Italian Americans. I thought we were still allowed to do that.
No, you are.
But they're allowed to do Steve Irwin, and I'm not getting offended.
Okay. All right. No, anyway, back to the story. That's a good one. That is a problem. So I think you just got to watch comms, like if you're a hitman in the mob, and regardless of your age, typically it's good to just sneak around a bit, before you announce yourself. It's like they've tried to, are you in the mob or are you an influencer? Why do you need to tell everyone where your dad is?
Well, I think they need to go over the elderly mobsters need to obviously go through the rules again with the young people because something's gotten lost.
Yep.
Anyway, moving on. Wild boar and rat snakes have not suffered any significant health effects from the radiation at the Fukushima nuclear accident, suggesting that people do not need to be as fearful of moving back, study says.
Are these the same animals that are now evolving and glowing in the dark?
Look, I just thought that was hilarious that it was the scene of a nuclear explosion. So
I think I'd trust those Geiger counter things a little bit more than what is it, a rat snake?
A wild boar and a rat snake. Yeah.
What the fuck is a rat snake?
Is it a snake that eats rats, or is it a?
I think it. I don't know. Yeah, it's probably a snake that looks like a rat. I don't know.
It can't be that. It can't be a snake.
Did the radiation somehow combine a rat with a snake?
Maybe. I don't know. I just thought it was hilarious.
Anyway,
headline.
Look, I don't know much about the Fukushima incident, but I don't know. I'd be keeping an eye on those animals just to make sure that, because a lot of movies start this way. Actually, a lot of Japanese movies start this way, usually with Godzilla.
Yeah. Well, I'd be holding off on putting my down payment on my new Fukushima flat.
Oh, I
know,
bet you
like-
I bet you property prices are cheap there.
Well, they probably are.
Aren't you in the market for a new house, Sheila?
I am, but I'm looking in more tropical climes.
Ah.
Okay.
What's next?
Now, I think you guys are going to like this. This is actually from news.com.au. So I've diverted for just a little bit. Aussie woman cops flack over $30 Smoke Mart gift card for her 15-year-old stepson.
So Smoke Mart is like a tobacco shop, yeah.
Tobacconist.
Yeah. 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 And
Well, now they've let out some details. We need to know where this is.
it just said, happy 15th birthday, Callum. Treat yourself.
Where does Callum live? Come on.
I don't know. I had to shut the article down because it started blasting music at me. So
I'm not profiling. I just know that, in Sydney, Callum doesn't live in the harbour, and Melbourne, he doesn't live in Toorak. So is what I'm saying. So
all right. Well, what you just said was really fucking snobby. I think
I don't live in those
it doesn't.
places. I'm just
it
saying
doesn't-
Callum doesn't live there either. Callum doesn't live near me either.
It's I don't know. And this lady's the stepmom is a bit. She doesn't understand what the big deal is.
Are there pictures?
She said you can get. Oh my God, you're so interested in this story. I didn't really think that you.
I don't care about the Fukushima incident. I really want to know about Callum's
stepmom,
gronkish mum who bought.
Yeah, it sounds like you want to hook up with her because she sounds.
No, because there's a
She
famous.
smokes, she pokes.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that what you're?
If she smokes, she pokes. That's right. That's the famous saying. And as soon as I heard Smoke Mart, I was like, oh, she's sexually available.
She's hot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Hang on. I'm trying to work out where she's from. I don't know.
All right. No, that's okay.
We shouldn't profile Callum's stepmom.
I don't think that there's any Smoke Marts in any nice area.
If Callum's stepmom is listening, we will accept nudes.
Absolutely.
Well, if it helps you, she put this up on a Facebook group called Kmart Hacks and Decor.
Oh, yeah.
Does that help you to profile poor Callum's stepmom anymore?
Yeah, I got her pegged.
And they've made a point of saying, look, they sell some Halloween costumes there, and some sports apparel and merchandise and homewares, but they also are known for their extensive range of cigarettes, vapes, and lighters.
Yeah. $30 is not getting much, by the way.
No. Is that even a pack of smokes these days?
No. As an ex-smoker, I'll tell you, that's not going to get you much. And yeah, no, we'll leave it there. All right, what's next?
Oh, this is just to get you a bit. I don't want to spend too much time on this one. This is just to get you riled. Now Superman comes out as bisexual. DC Comics reveals superhero son of Clark Kent and Lois Lane will start a romance with male best friend 2 months after Robin came out as bi.
But wait a minute. Isn't it Jonathan Kent, his son? That's gay?
Yeah, but I think
bi.
Yeah, but it just says now Superman comes out as bisexual. I mean, I don't really think the Daily Mail cares about facts.
They're not into the Superman lore.
No, they're not into canon.
Right. No, but what I don't get, so much I don't get. So, firstly, isn't bisexuality the belief in sexual dimorphism? Like I know if you say I'm bisexual, aren't you saying that there's like a gender binary and that you like them both? So really, aren't the Bs in the LGBT, aren't they bigots in a way? Like, because they're not like immediately into lady dicks or the other one, whatever the inverse lady dick. I don't know what that's called.
A man pussy?
I wasn't ready.
You're a fucking man pussy. Okay, you're both fucking man pussy.
I wasn't ready for how raw it would sound. So anyway, I don't. But so that's what I don't get. So when these woke corporations like proudly say, I think they use bi as a bit of a, they go, hey, look at us, we're bi, we're hip, and then but they don't realize that I think within that community there is everyone in and out of that community is a suspect of the bias. Like people outside the community are like, oh, come on, you're just in college or you're in uni and you're just experimenting. It's all a bit. I don't know any 70-year-old bi people. And then the people in the community are like, well, aren't you guys bigoted because you believe in one or the other? And what about all the stuff I got going on? So there's that. And then secondly, when I was, massively into Superman,
I thought you were going to say when you were massively into dudes.
When I was massively bi, when I was into Superman, I didn't care whose dick he was sucking.
Well, that's the thing. Because there's nothing more teenage, mostly male, comic book fans love more than watching superheroes munching on dicks.
I think it's mainly just kissing they're doing. But
imagine the clench that the Man of Steel's butthole has. He'll be able to milk the shit out of a juicy D.
You have suddenly become Kevin Bloody Wilson, and I want to buy your bootleg tapes. Give them to everyone.
This has become the 12th man today.
Yes, this is raw. No, but seriously, look, they can do whatever they like. The thing is, they're just trying. The sales have dropped. They're trying, like manga and anime are burying comic books, and they're doing anything they can. They're like, oh well, I don't know, just quick. Just two characters, just make them kiss. Doesn't matter which ones. And they're just doing whatever. And none of it's working. And this won't work either because, people we want good characters, we want good stories. We don't care if they're bi. Doesn't matter.
Is that because manga has things like octo sex and stuff like that? Is that why they're burying?
Well, it's just not woke. It's got that. Like some of it's got that. But they're just, it's great storytelling, great characters, and they're focused. They don't start, as we've said before, they don't start with the conversation of, okay, how everyone who buys our comic books are fucking dummies or bigoted colonialist dickheads and we hate them. Yeah. Anyway, go on. And then they say, well, anyway, I really think that what they need to learn about is like trans issues or something. And then they go, okay, well, we've got to come up with a story. Who can we use? And then they just get someone, they just go, Green Lantern, he's a trans now, whatever. So that's how they start. Whereas in Japan, they sit down and they go, okay, anyway, I got this story about like, a kid who wants to become king of the pirates and then, this big adventure. They've lost the plot. It's mission creep. All right.
Well, I actually had this slated for discussion later in our show.
Oh, good.
Today, guys. So I've actually done a little bit of research. I've got a quote here. So this is from writer Tom Taylor in an interview on IGN. He said, I knew replacing Clark with another straight white savior could be a real opportunity missed, but I've always said everyone needs heroes and everyone deserves to see themselves in their heroes. Today, Superman, the strongest superhero on the planet, is coming out. So it also takes, this particular series looks to offer a more modern take on the character. John Kent's version of the hero will not only face off against the usual run of supervillains, but also contemporary issues like climate change and school shootings. And he's entering into a relationship with Jay Nakamura, a hacktivist and journalist who idolizes John's mother, Lois Lane, but is also a refugee. So if that doesn't get you interested...
I know we've run off on a tangent here, but this was, we're going a bit deeper on this one. But can I take an issue with the quote you said? Because he said something particularly annoying, which we've talked about before. He said, now, is it something like everybody deserves to see themselves in their heroes? Is that what he said?
That's right, yeah.
Is that the quote?
But I've always said everyone needs heroes and everyone deserves to see themselves in their heroes.
Okay. I think this person is 100% wrong about that. 100% wrong about that. Now, that doesn't mean I actually think that, diversity is happening, has happened and will always happen, and we are progressive and things are going smashingly. Not as quick as everyone would like, but that's how it goes. That quote is completely the opposite. I think everybody with a good story and a good character done correctly. I think everybody deserves to see the hero within themselves, the complete opposite thing. So when I watch, when I used to watch Dirty Dancing all the time, I saw baby in me. You know what I mean? Like her qualities, her good qualities were in. I deserved to see the hero in me.
Nobody puts John in the corner.
Well, nobody puts me in the corner, but that's the thing.
John carried a watermelon.
But this is what I carried a watermelon. No, but this is exactly what these people get wrong. They start with this position of, what kind of PSA are we going to do? Everybody deserves to see themselves on screen. So anyway, let's have, we've got to have all the quotas. We've got to have this many people in wheelchairs. We've got to have this many gay people. For starters, it's gross having those discussions. Secondly, it's not, it's probably not going to work out the way you want it to. But most of all, it's completely the opposite. Like I used to watch, and I've said this before, I used to watch Malcolm X when I was a kid. And I saw Malcolm in me.
What kind of childhood did you have? I was watching Star Wars.
Yeah, well, I was watching that shit too, man. But I covered a lot of ground.
He also had a very elderly grandmother who he would take to the video store and get her to get him whatever videos he wanted to get out.
Yeah,
isn't that
good
right?
Like that. Yeah, she was good. She used to.
You just put your thumb over the R rating in the corner.
Yeah, she didn't care. So, but it was. I just
a 7-year-old getting out RoboCop.
I'm hot about this because. Yeah, this just comes up all the time, and I'm getting closer now. It only just occurred to me that these people have it completely the opposite. Like, all of the great stories. In fact, because that's the thing, America maybe is too America-centric because you should be watching cinema or films or TV from all around the world. So if you're doing that, if you're watching something from Iran, if you're watching something from Spain and Italy and Africa and wherever, well, then you're going to see, what am I going to watch an African movie and then go, oh, fuck this movie. I'm not in this movie. Where's my representation? And and rail against it. Like it's so egocentric as well. You just say, no. If you're doing your job right, then the people will see themselves, see the hero in themselves. Anyway, stop me. Someone stop me.
Anyway, on to my next headline. Bizarre crackhead war breaks out in Canberra apartment block with a stick-waving Suzuki Swift driver taking on a foul-mouthed man on a trike. Now, what I like here is the headline, Bizarre crackhead war.
Are they crackheads?
I don't know. I just like the headline. So
Canberra is there's not much to do.
Yeah,
there, so
there are a lot of crackheads in Canberra.
I like calling it a crackhead war. I like saying that he's in a Suzuki Swift, kind of emasculating him.
Should ask Yuri. Yuri's into cars. Should ask him about the Suzuki Swift and what kind of person drives them. And why?
Well, I don't look. I'm not carist.
I think it's either cheap bogan or it's like a 17-year-old
lady
chick's first car.
Yeah,
right.
It's a lady car, I think.
Right.
And the other one's on a trike. So
humiliating. Device.
I think it's just a huge, it's just a piss take headline. All right, next one. Bunnings worker, 22, quit her uni degree despite a $20,000 HEX debt to keep working at the hardware store Bunnings because she realised she already had her dream job.
Wow.
Fucking hell.
This is a sponsored story by Bunnings.
Yeah, that's right. They're having staffing problems in Bunnings because of the vaccine mandate that's coming in. So a lot of Bunnings workers don't want to get the vax, so they're quitting. Maybe this is a little sneaky PSA for people, for the Bunnings Corporation to get more college grads to drop out or college students to drop out and join the team.
Could be. Next headline. Discussed as the Taliban is given a platform to brainwash young Aussie Muslims at a Sydney talk, and the Afghan community who fled their murderous rule is furious. So the the Australian Federation of Islamic Councils has organised a lineup of keynote guests to speak at an online event, and the future of Afghanistan and the rest. And they've got 2 speakers from the Taliban speaking. I don't know. I don't know if we should be giving, like technically other people in this country can't say jack shit about anything, and we're giving a platform to the Taliban. I'm not sure.
I think they should broadcast these guys on every station when they do their talk, so we can all see what they're on about.
That's a good move, though. That's right. We do need, like, it's not like, we just need to hear everything they have to say, and let's see how long they can go without looking around the audience and saying, I look around and I see a lot of smiling faces. I also see a lot of infidel whores need to smarten up. And you go, there it is. There it is.
I think we should be doing the opposite of deplatforming or cancelling them. I think we should give them a bigger platform.
I know. I love that you've forgotten the word platform because we platform people so heavily and we never give people a platform.
Yeah.
It's not a word. So what's the word when you deplatform someone? What's the word you give them when you let them speak?
Yeah. Yeah.
This next one. Okay, it just says, this is what happens in communist countries. Trump tears into de Blasio for trying to confiscate his Bronx golf course to replace it with a homeless shelter. So de Blasio's trying to confiscate their golf course as a homeless shelter. So that's interesting.
Yeah. The Donald.
The Donald. I don't know how I feel about that. Obviously, homeless people need places to go, but rich people need places to golf too, right?
I kind of love it
They just need to
because
fix their healthcare system.
True.
And
Instead
the
of-
things that he railed against are kind of biting him in the ass now because there's so many people who have become homeless, and like you said, with no healthcare that he once again railed against. So that's very.
I went to the US in 2006, so that's a long time ago, and I was shocked by how many homeless people I saw, particularly in Chicago. I was like, it was an eye opener for me,
I was in Denver, I think 2.5 years ago or 3 years ago, and I was it was heartbreaking. And it was during the big freeze where they had the big, super snowstorms and stuff, and you would see people still outside huddled. It was horrific.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that'll be an interesting one to watch. And lastly, are you in a parasocial relationship? Pandemic sparks increase in weird one-sided relationships where people believe they're friends or in love with their favorite influencer.
I'm trying to get a lot of people in that sort of relationship with us.
I know. How do we get some of these people to fall in love with us?
Keep saying some of the
Be
stuff
better
you said today.
guys.
Oh.
Oh.
One of us needs to transition.
You first.
Paper, scissors, rock. Come on.
No. You, I think I'll watch you do it, and then I'll do it second.
Okay.
All right, Sheila, that was good. That was good. What did I like best? I think I probably like Smoke Mart.
That was good.
I think you liked Smoke Mart the most.
Yes, that was good. You knew what I was going to say about the Superman stuff, so you just baited me there. But the Smoke Mart thing was surprising. I still care about it. I want to know everything, but unfortunately, that's it.
You want to know? Well, the thing that came out of that is that I kind of felt that you want to see pictures of the stepmom.
Yeah, I do.
She sounds hot. For some reason, she sounds hot.
Yeah, she looks fun. Sounds fun. Leather pants, sort of a bit, that's just that sort of a bit of a roadie sort of a look,
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
See you next week, Sheila.
Cheerio.
Bye.
If you enjoy what we do here on the New Flesh podcast, there are a number of ways you can contribute to the success of the show. Consider supporting us financially by becoming a Patreon member and donating monthly or yearly. Alternatively, you can donate money through the Buy Me a Coffee platform. If you're strapped for cash at this point in time, there are a number of other ways to support the new flesh. You can give us a rating or review through Apple Podcasts. These help others to find our show and help spread the word. Or you can tell your friends about us. Don't underestimate the power of a podcast recommendation. And now, back to the show.
Well, Ricky, I'm going to finish up our New York Times spectacular. You're going to love this story, by the way. You're just going to love it. Now, the reason I'm talking about the Las Vegas Raiders, I get, a bit of personal information. I've chosen my NFL team, and it's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay.
I decided when I went to Las Vegas, I really loved Vegas. I had a great time, me and my wife. And when I saw they had the wickedest stadium, we drove past it. I was like, that looks wicked.
Yeah.
And I loved the town. So I was like, it's taken me a while, but now I'm like, I'm all about the Raiders. If they move, I don't know what I'm going to do. But for the moment, it's Las Vegas.
Well, this is their third home, isn't it? They used to be the LA Raiders. Then they were the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
Now they're the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. Well, I'm with them until they move. So anyway, Raiders coach resigns after homophobic and misogynistic emails. In emails detailed by the New York Times. Why they pump themselves up all the time? Like
pat themselves on the back.
I'm reading you fuckheads.
Look what we did. Look what we did.
Look what we did. It's like, yeah, it's what you meant to do. Okay. Raiders coach Jon Gruden casually used misogynistic and homophobic language to disparage people. Well, you can't very well use misogynistic and homophobic language to exalt people. So that's a bit of a redundancy, don't you think? Like,
yeah.
You can't just say use the language and it speaks for itself. Why have I got to say to disparage people? Anyway, Jon Gruden stepped down. This guy stepped down as the head coach of the Raiders because emails were discovered, get this, as part of a workplace misconduct investigation. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, yes, he wrote naughty things and this has just done him in. The investigation wasn't involving him. He was tangentially related. So these emails came out as part of some other shit that was going down with someone else.
Right.
And they were just like stumbled across these emails. They were sent via email. He sent them via mostly via his private email. And one of the main guy he's contacted, this guy, Bruce Allen, I think his name is another big wig. He would go back and forth from his team account. So, so imagine that. So Gruden, the coach, is sending privately to a range of accounts, really, from a group of men high up in business and NFL and related industries. But this main guy was to his team one. So here's some hits for you. Gruden's departure came after a New York Times report that NFL officials, as part of a separate blah, blah, blah. He denounced the emergence of women as referees, the drafting of a gay player, and the tolerance of players protesting during the playing of the national anthem. Gruden's messages were sent to Bruce Allen, the former president of the Washington football team, and others. In the emails, Gruden called the league's commissioner, Roger Goodell, a, quote, faggot, close quote, and a, quote, clueless anti-football pussy, close quote, and said that Goodell should not have pressured Jeff Fisher, then the coach of the Rams, to draft, quote, queers, close quote, a reference to Michael Sam, a gay player chosen by the team in 2014. But Gruden's behavior was not limited to 2011. Gruden exchanged emails with Allen and other men that included photos of women wearing only bikini bottoms, including one photo of two Washington team cheerleaders. And this is me. Well, I never.
They probably have OnlyFans accounts, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, probably. Gruden also criticized President Obama during his re-election campaign in 2012, as well as then Vice President Joseph R. Biden. Why do they say this motherfucker's full name all the time? Who Gruden called quote who Gruden called, quote, a nervous, clueless pussy, close quote. He used similar words to describe Goodall and DeMaurice Smith, the executive director of NFL Player Association. And now this is them. Taken together, the emails provide an unvarnished look at into the clubby nature of one NFL circle of peers, where white male decision makers felt comfortable sharing pornographic images, deriding the league policies, and jocularly sharing homophobic language. Now, we'll get into the pornographic images. I'm just confused there. Are they talking about the topless photos? Like this kind of vagueness befits a tabloid. Do you know what I mean? You need to be clear, because I don't think a lot of people would think that topless is pornography.
No.
So anyway, in the exchange, just to finish up, Allen also criticized a congressional bill that aimed to force Washington franchise to change its name. That was, I think, maybe the Redskins. And he's also criticized the taking of the knee and thought that the players who started that should have been sort of forced to toe the line. So what do you think of this amazing story?
Well, some of the language is pretty hilarious, and it is pretty bawdy, and some of the language is unacceptable for public consumption. But that's the thing, these are private emails between
locker room talk.
It is locker room talk, but everyone knows there are certain things that people say in private and certain language and bravado that people might use that they wouldn't use publicly, I'm not defending his views on things, but, the fact that they're trawling through his personal email that he's kind of having a back and forth with friends, I don't know. It seems... I'm just a bit conflicted by it, just because it seems like there is no private sphere anymore,
But well, that's true. They've really gone back here. So 2011 was some of this stuff. Now that was now people might have forgotten, but 10 years ago was a completely different world. Not in some respects, but in terms of the archaeology, that goes on now. This sort of muckraking into people's pasts and trying them for things that were either unfortunately perfectly usual at the time. Do you know what I mean?
Did they have any more recent emails that they were talking about?
They did. I think they had some from 2017 or so. Right. But it just sort of, in the words of the castle, it's like they've gotten him on the vibe. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Some stuff really speaks for itself. I didn't even include the worst stuff he said. There was a union boss leader. Now I should do it in the way the New York Times would do it. Who is back?
Yeah.
You got to scream it. The New York Times, they go blah blah blah. Who is back? Who's back?
Do they put it in caps?
No, they capitalize the B. Okay, and that is a house style, or I think Associated Press do that. And I've heard John McWhorter talk about why that's okay. It sort of refers to a cultural, difference and stuff like that.
Right.
But the way they do it is so awkward and gross, and they scream it all the time. You know what I mean? And and if you think white is capitalized, you're wrong. That's lowercase.
Oh, really?
It is.
They don't capitalize white.
No, that's white. That's lowercase. And
really?
so, but they go blah blah blah. Who is black? Anyway, this union boss, this guy made some, sort of really off color, pretty racist stuff about the guy, like his facial features and stuff like that. Like, and I was like, okay, that speaks for itself. And using his, and I'll say it again, quote, faggot, unquote. Remember, that's a quote. I'm not saying it. He said that's nowadays we know that's too much, and we need to sunset that word. And but this stuff, clueless anti-football pussy, which I think you could almost say now anyway.
Yeah,
like the word pussy is a tricky one because, it's a vague term. It is and it isn't what it is referring to. Do you know what I mean? Like, when I say pussy, if a guy's a pussy, I think you're more referring to him being, an ineffectual male than you are him being literally a piece of like a female anatomy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like they're so literal. It's like, do you guys read? Do you understand anything about?
Well, the word dick gets used a lot. Like, he's a dick. Stop being a dick. You know, someone who's an asshole. That seems to be more acceptable than pussy. I'm sure the New York Times wouldn't have a problem with someone being called a dick, you know.
No. Well, I think they are a bunch of dicks and sometimes a bunch of pussies. So, do you know what I mean? I think that they are both. So, and I think that so what I think is interesting now, going to my little rant here. So, look, this guy Gruden is a clown, okay? He's foolish for sending anything even borderline to someone's work email account. Would you do that?
No.
Like, imagine that. You've got a mate who works at the ed department and you just like, you're sending him like titty pics and stuff to his ed department.
Yeah.
And you're just going...
Maybe that he's showing his age there. You know, he's just not that tech savvy. He doesn't get it.
Well, he doesn't get it. Divorce yourself from the content and just acknowledge that this guy is a total clown, a fucking idiot. And his children need to school him better on how to use technology.
Yeah.
I just don't send... I'm not putting a lot of the mad shit, you know, I'm not saying a lot of stuff he's saying, you know, except on the show. but I just wouldn't send it in an email, like, you know, it's out of context and it's a different thing. Anyway, now I don't pretend to know what's in people's hearts and minds. He's probably like a lot of people, right? Full of contradictions, got a family who loves him. He gives generously. He's not down with the gays because he's old school. Old and an old school. He likes to swing his dick in a job where that's important, and he likes titties. So I think we have to just see people, you know, for who they are, and doesn't mean you have to, you know, let him keep his job. Doesn't mean you have to just. I think that, you know, the New York Times is making a lot of claims about what's in his heart and mind. You know? So it's the conflation in this article that is beyond the pale to me. It's in their hunt to find Nazis in our midst. They work harder than they need to paint this guy as an out-of-date idiot, which he is.
But including the criticism of people protesting at the national anthem as well, like conflating all of that and putting that in there too. I think that's a valid critique. You know, I think we should be talking about whether it's appropriate that people protest during the national anthem, you know.
That's right.
And especially bringing politics into sport as well, because that's not what the fans want. The fans want the sport to escape the politics and the rubbish that's happening in their day-to-day lives. You know, they don't want... That's the big criticism of the NBA as well, is that all of this political stuff is just infesting the sport, and people don't want that. People just want the sport, you know.
Just as a side note, we did a whole episode on work sports, work world of sports, and we covered some of the NFL's, you know, measures which they're going to undertake in the coming season, which are even more slogans on helmets and on the field. And now people have identified that, you know, this is just sort of calling out their hypocrisy and whatever, I guess. But, you know, this particular thing of the kneeling is, as we see in Europe, it's a contested issue.
Yeah.
And there's a disconnect, if we be charitable, between what the players think they're doing and what the audience thinks they're doing. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's on a different page. When you're on the outside, punters look at it and they hate it. They go, look, you know, all the reasons we've said. I want apolitical, like, you know, we're already here together, one love, like, you know, we're all one here, you know, singing this one song for this few minutes. And they take that kneeling as being, you know, offensive to, you know, it could be things, it could be military, it could be like they know service people, or it could be just they're grateful to live in that country and not in a lot of other, you know, more unfortunate places that you could be born into.
Or as Donald Trump would say, shithole countries.
Well, but Donald, he had a way with words. Okay, now
He did.
So anyway, just on this language, because I brought it up before, why do we need to say? I'm honestly asking this question: why do we need to say misogynistic and homophobic in this context? Like, isn't it just discriminatory language?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't it all just fit under the same banner? Like, why does it matter if it's gay guy or a female referee or like? I'm genuinely confused. Now, someone could, just tell me easily, I'm sure, like why I need to know the detail. But discrimination, we have law. I don't know how it works in America, but we have discrimination laws in Australia. Do you know what I mean? Like on the books. So if someone's discriminatory, like, you can actually, there's legal measures you can take and say, I've been discriminated against.
Yeah.
There's no misogyny laws. There's no homophobia laws. Because you also would have to define Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, but there's no the homophobia, because remember that phobia thing doesn't quite work grammatically either. Because homophobia, like these people aren't afraid of gay people; they just don't like them. So I don't know. That doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like anyway. So I just am confused at that. Now, misogyny is also this emotive and subjective word that's difficult to apply to action. So what the New York Times is saying here, they're confident enough to say that this man hates women because he uses the word pussy. Now, because I can't see a lot of other evidence in the article apart from the titties he sent round. So if liking titties and using the word pussy is enough to label you, the referee thing, okay, so he doesn't like the idea of female referees. But they need to see, now they need to be more specific. They need to say, okay, now when we say he's a misogynist or that he's using misogynistic language, like that refers to him being discriminatory against female referees, and not his usage of the word pussy, because we know, a lot of people who just say that. Like the guy who fixed your car this morning probably called everyone in the workshop that today. And he didn't mean he's got a wife and he's not a misogynist. He's just, you know what I mean? Like, so they're not being very clear about that. So I just feel like, how about we say, hey, dickhead, Gruden or whatever your name is, like, you've got no right to keep competent people out of a job. If she can do the job, the referee, then you can just fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it is. On the other hand, you have to treat, this is what the punter would say. They'd say, yeah, that's cool. Let's get the female referees or whatever, but just treat them the same. Don't treat her differently. Don't have special rules. Don't just exactly the same. So it's got to go both ways. But this is the other thing: homophobia, misogyny, and disagreeing with Obama, and liking the titties of cheerleaders are now all the same.
They're all the same.
They're all the same.
They're all one and the same.
They're all the same. So, I mean, I disagree with Obama. I disagree with Obama.
You like titties?
Well, I do like titties. But I disagree with Obama. And you know what? Titties with just bikini bottoms as well. That's like, I mean, there's a song, you're the top, like that's what I think of. It's just like fantastic is what I'd say. But I disagree with Obama. Drone striking Afghan weddings. And I dare say that some people at the New York Times might also disagree with his record of record high deportation of immigrants. So I just find that this is such a awkward thing. This is how they tip their hand. They couldn't help themselves. Like, this article should have been about fairly cold representation of what he'd said, and everyone reading it would go, yep, you know what? If you use the word faggot, then that's not on.
They're trying to stack the charges up.
Of course they are.
They're trying to
but
do.
This happens I've heard Dershowitz talk about this. It's just like when you load up nonsense in there, I think it devalues the main charges. Like the racist stuff he said about that union boss was beyond the pale. The referee thing was discrimination. The stuff he said about the gay players was discrimination. That's how it should have been labeled. Forget this word misogyny. Like that, you don't know what's in his heart and mind. You're not magical, so forget it. And disagreeing with Obama.
Yeah.
Like in 2012, he was not very popular. Remember, this was just before Donald Trump got in.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
he barely won that election, 2012.
Mm.
So let's get real. Like you know what I mean? This is such a fascinating story
Mm.
and perfectly articulates why the New York Times, irk me so, Ricky.
I know. Well, you might have to take another break. We have 3 New York Times articles in today's episode. Might have to take a month off.
I could easily do that. Easily.
Well, another jam-packed show. Great stuff. I believe we've got Side Boob Cinema again happening next Wednesday. We've got our Spooktacular that's running for the whole month of October. And Sheila, she filled in for our last Side Boob. We might bring her back for a bit more punishment.
Mainly to punish her, yeah.
Yeah, she was not a fan of Friday the 13th, so we'll bring her back, make her watch 3 and 4. I think that might be fun.
Absolutely. And hopefully AJ will join us from her sojourn.
Ooh, a 4-way.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. All right. Well, Ricky, we said what we said.
Till next time. Long live the new flesh.
Long live the new flesh. If she smokes, she pokes. That's right.
Mamma mia!